Hi, my name is Grant Medlin. Welcome to the Fast and Curious podcast, where we bring you a topic in 15 minutes or less. Today, we're going to be discussing Air Force One, and I'm here with my co-host Zach.
Hey everybody. So we're gonna basically be talking about first off what it's used for. So any aircraft that the president travels in is known as Air Force One, but they use the Boeing 747 a lot.
But that's
So
like what, even though the term Air Force One
Yes.
is used for any air transportation for the president, whenever you use that term, everyone visualizes the Boeing 747 that he flies
Yeah,
in. That's
exactly,
like what's commonly used.
Yeah. So it's used for transporting the president long distances. I think they can also go short distances. It's just basically anywhere that needs to be traveled by plane. You know,
Yeah.
It's longer than a motorcade. You know, than a motorcade can travel. Then
Like usually like the plane's used to go from city to city, and then
Yeah.
you use the motorcade.
So, like, for example, North Korea, China, Japan, you know, stuff across the world there. But this thing is packed. Like, it has so many levels. I think it has, like, 4 levels, right?
It's three levels.
3 levels? Dude, this thing is nice.
And the kitchen in the plane has a they can prepare enough food for up to 100 people at one time.
Yeah, I've heard, yeah. Because they hold some big meetings in there while they're doing stuff. But there are some, Air Force One has gone through some changes over the past few years. So in 1943, Franklin D. Roosevelt used a Boeing 314 Clipper, and by the picture, it shows it's like a water plane.
Yeah, it could
It can
land in
on water. So in between 1942 and 1945, they used a Douglas C-54C.
And that was used
Or a
by
DC-4 Skymaster.
That plane was used by FDR and Truman after FDR passed away.
Yeah, and that's like one of those 4-prop deals there. And then in 1959 to 1962, they used a Boeing 707 VC-137A. Now that's a lot of numbers to understand, but that was used by Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, and Nixon. You can see it has like a cool little red design thing. It looks like a little torpedo. In between 1962 and 1990, they used a Boeing 707. Same thing as last time, but except it's a 137C. That was used by Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, Ford, Carter, Reagan, and Bush. So I know that the presidents get to kind of choose what their aircraft looks like, but some don't. Some just stay with the old one.
Yeah, most don't change it.
Yeah.
But 1990 is the current one. It's the Boeing 747 VC-25A. Now, the first president to get to use this plane was President George H.W. Bush, who just recently passed away. And it is gone all the way up till modern day with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And so some more features with the plane is has more than 4,000 square feet of onboard space. And they have a conference room, a dining room, living quarters for the president, office space for the cabinet members, and living quarters for up to 100 passengers. Mm-hmm. There's a medical suite and a surgical suite, and there's always a doctor on board with the crew.
I believe there's 26 crew members on board.
Yeah, and there's probably defense systems on it that they can't disclose because that'd be a threat to national security.
Yeah.
But it has. So one of the biggest features about it is that it can refuel while in the air, so it can stay in the air for as long as it can, as long as it needs to, and
that's more of a safety feature.
Yeah. So if it's not safe for the president to be on the ground, then they just keep him in the air, and the Boeing is escorted. It gets escorted, everywhere it goes as a defense team with it.
It's almost like aircrafts and like aircraft carriers.
Yeah.
It always has battleships around it.
Yeah.
This thing has, jets, and I believe they have some other planes that follow it around.
Yeah, with like supplies and stuff.
Yeah. And then of course the fuel plane.
Yeah.
That stays with them. And they drop like the little spout out the back of the other one, and it goes like into like a little hole in the front of the Boeing Air Force One.
But it also has like all these different types of radio systems on it, so it has long distance communication, basically to wherever in the nation, wherever in the world it needs to communicate to.
Yeah.
And it's it's hard to imagine, but it's way bigger than any passenger airplane out there. Like it's huge.
Yes.
Comparatively.
Yeah. So the normal Boeing 747, it has a length of 231 feet and 10 inches. Now Air Force One, of course, it's customized, has some extra room there. It's at 250 feet and 2 inches. So it's a noticeable difference between the two aircrafts. Probably if you're standing right beside it, you won't really notice it that much because they're just some huge airplanes. You're not going to really notice that they are, 20 feet more than the normal one. So, but yeah, it's pretty huge. It's got a wingspan of 224 feet compared to the normal one, which is 195 feet. Now, I know these are all numbers, but if you really think about it, you can kind of make that
think of football fields.
Yeah.
But so anytime it's in the air, there's a combat ready group of more than 1,000 people are ready, prepared, and on deck to handle any situation that goes down while it's in the air.
Yeah.
And it gets accompanied by either C-17s or C-130s, which are military jets that fly next to it. They fly in front of it, and they also provide supplies for it. It's so this is probably one of the nicest planes you can ride in. Well, I mean you can't ride in, but the president, watching the movies and stuff, you see depictions of it, but I can't imagine the movies are that far off from what it is in reality. So it's just like a big presidential suite, but on a plane.
Yeah. The total cost of Air Force One is $4 billion.
Yeah.
Billion with a B.
And that's one of the biggest controversies with the future of Air Force One, because Donald Trump complained when he first got in office about the absurd costs of running it, because Donald Trump has a private airplane that he rides in that's almost as big as it and costs not even $1 billion to run.
Yeah.
So he has in I believe it's 2024. The year 2024, there's going to be a new model, and it's going to be bigger, faster, emit less CO2 gases, be able to fly farther on its fuel
without having to be refueled.
Without having to be refueled, it can hold more. Just overall, bigger, better plane. But like you said, it's costing around $4 billion to make, and Donald Trump is not happy with Boeing about that, and he's threatening to cancel the order.
Yeah,
because that's 3 planes.
I mean, because his private plane, that's a normal, you get on a Southwest United plane.
Yeah,
that's literally the plane that he owns.
Yeah, so some people I believe at the beginning of his presidency, he used to talk about how if Air Force One kept costing so much, he would just fly in his private plane and just have the security planes follow his private plane.
Yeah,
in order to keep costs down.
Yeah, definitely. But I know that here in the near future, I mean, they're always making upgrades to it, and that of course adds more and more money onto it. But I actually just looked up just now, but for Trump's private aircraft, it's $100 million. So that's not super close to the $4 billion that the Air Force One is, but that's still a lot.
$100 million is a lot, but compared to $4 billion, that's nowhere near that.
But that's probably because they have Rolls-Royce. I
gotta imagine the cost of it sometimes also factors with the defense, the escorts it gets.
Well,
so the upkeep of those planes and the soldiers who are required to protect them.
Yeah, because a trip from DC to Hong Kong, that'll be pretty expensive.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Because of the fuel. Because jet fuel is already super expensive, or plane fuel, or I think it's called jet fuel. It's already expensive. Plus, you got to get the food. You got to hire the crew, or you got to pay the crew. Crew's already hired. Pilots. Yeah. I think there's 4 pilots that pilot this thing. You got energy, because I think this thing also uses solar power some way. I'm not 100% on that one, but Yeah, like this.
I mean,
thing
and you
is
got a
an
doctor on
absolute-
board.
Yeah, a doctor.
You gotta pay him too.
Oh my
It's all
gosh.
these crazy things that go with it, and I can't imagine just like the technology. Like one of the things that they can't disclose is the defense systems on it. Because
Yeah.
I mean, we know it gets escorted, but there's gotta be stuff on there on the plane itself that defends it that we don't know. The plane, in fact, is hardened with special materials to protect it from EMP pulse.
I have heard about that. Yes.
So if there's the EMP pulse, the plane would be fine. The plane would be able to stay in the air and be able to still communicate.
And that's why the refueling deal is because hey, we can't have the president on the ground. Let's just circle him around the United
Yeah,
States first.
because if there's people threatening to attack him on the ground, just put them in the air and they can't touch them.
Yep. Except if you nuke them, but but yeah, with these constant upgrades happening in the future, things being added. I mean, that's always happening with anything. New models of Boeing. They may add some stuff to the engines. I know that Rolls-Royce engines have had like a recall on some of their engines for like a tube mishap. So that kind of stuff is being put into consideration when doing these tests with them.
Yeah, so like in the Air Force, I know, and other military branches that have aircraft, after they make like flights on deployments and stuff, they come back to the States and they get completely stripped down to the very, very last bit. Everything gets inspected, cleaned and all, and then they get put right back together. And so I'm really curious as to know what inspections Air Force One goes through.
Probably a lot.
In order to make sure it's still working and that. Because ultimately, it's all these things are designed to prevent it from getting attacked and all this stuff, but like what if something mechanically goes wrong with the plane?
Yes, definitely. But it's definitely, the pre-flight checks are definitely a lot more intense than just a normal passenger jet.
Oh, they gotta be.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like there's just no
There's no way you cannot let anything go wrong on this. Like everything has to
You're
work.
carrying probably the most important person of the U.S. Yes, the most important person of the U.S. in a tin can in the air, filled with gold.
Like anything can go wrong. You gotta, like, make
anything
sure
can go wrong.
fine.
Well, I think we've explained that. Basically, like what Air Force One's used for. So, what's your opinion on it?
I think it's a symbol of the U.S. It's like a
yes.
and all, but at the same time, I do think Trump has a point in that it is ridiculously expensive.
I do agree with you. Like I do. Kudos to Trump because he's always like go big or go home. But I seriously, this guy has some respect now because he is actually saying that this is too expensive, and
Yeah.
I really respect him for that.
He's so rich to the point where he's like, "Yo, this is so unnecessary. Like,
why is it
we
this
don't need
expensive?
this.
Yeah.
Like, we don't. This is so like he's not wanting to spend U.S. money on himself. Like he's like, this is too much.
I mean, even though it's not himself, it's for presidents, just in general. But
yeah.
I mean, I understand him for that.
Because the new order isn't supposed to be here until 2024. So even if he won the presidency for 2020, he still wouldn't be in that plane. Mm-hmm. But he still cares that it's that expensive for something that's 2024 for the 2024 presidency.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to ride an Air Force One. This thing
that'd be an
looks
experience.
Dope. But I think that's going to be it for this episode. Thank you guys for listening in to
the Fast and Curious podcast.
Fast and Curious podcast, where we talk about a topic for 15 minutes or less. This has been our longest episode, I believe. We'll have to talk to the producers about that one. But thank you guys for listening in, and we'll see you guys here in the next one.